Hello and welcome to another wonderful learning section in our microservices series. Um, Today we're going to be learning how to Dockerize our application because we are going to be hosting our application on AWS and Microsoft Azure. So I've spent some time working with Silicon Valley companies and I found out that most of the applications they host them on either AWS or Microsoft Azure. And because we are building a big application, we're using microservices, we're going to be learning how to be able to do that. And the first step to doing that is by Dockerizing the application that we've built. So we're going to go into the application that we have and we're going to try to Dockerize it. So this is the application that we've built so far. We Dockerize, then we'll continue from there. Okay, now in order for you to get Docker in your system, you need to first of all install Docker. And for you to install Docker, you simply go to the website docs.docker.com/desktop so that you can just download this very desktop version of the Docker. So get it installed on in your system and start moving. So once you get it installed, then once you get to your program, you should be able to see Docker as one of the applications. So you can see it here, Docker. So I'm going to click on it here, Bagam. So it's coming up now. Okay. So once it's up, you're going to see the Docker desktop and we're going to continue moving from there. So what is Docker? So Docker provides the ability to package and run an application in a loosely isolated environment called a container. So with Docker, you can be able to containerize your application so that in any environment that your application finds itself, it can be able to work. So you develop your application, you Dockerize it. That Docker image that you create, you can now upload it to a registry and get it into any container environment like the AWS or the one that Azure or Google will provide for you. So it is the easiest way to package your product, your application, so that not when you maybe you design an application in a Windows system and it cannot work on a Mac system or a Mac environment. So once you finish developing it, you have to write a Docker file. Then with the Docker file, you get what we call a Docker image, which you can use to run a container in any container providing environment like AWS or what's it called, or Azure. So we're going to be learning how to do that. So simply first thing you have to do is you have to go to the website I just gave you, install Docker. Once you install, you have it, then you just click on it the way I clicked. So it opens up. So this is Docker. This is showing now that you have Docker. So you can see that I already have some images on my Docker because I've been working with it for a long time. Okay. So I'm going to quickly go back to the code so that we can start working immediately. So we're in the microservices folder. So I'm going to cd into the kernel, which is the one we are using as our sample. So kernel folder, cd into kernel. So you can see I'm now into the kernel folder. So here I'm going to create my Docker file because I want to write a Docker file that should be able to that we can use to Dockerize this application. So I'm going to say touch and I'll say Docker file. So you see the way the spelling of the way it is written, it has to be started with capital letter. Dockerfile Dockerfile. So you can see now I have my Docker file here. So this is where I'm going to write the instruction that can be used to produce a Docker image. So that Docker image will have everything to have all the instructions of how you want your package to be run or your application to be run in a containerized environment or that can be provided for you by AWS or any other of those services. Okay, so we now have our Docker file. So that's the first thing you do. Make sure you create it in the root of the directly, like under my kernel. I just put it the same stage that you would have done for your package.json. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is that you're going to give it instruction from what base content, from what base image is it going to be creating your image. So I say from. So when you say from, you put the base image. So which base image am I going to be using? So I'm going to be using, make sure this one is in small letter now, node. So the base image I'm going to be using is node. And node version of what? 12. So that's the base image I'm going to be using to create this Docker file. So I'm going to come down again. Then I'm going to tell you the working directory. So which directory am I going to be working on? So I'm going to be using working directly of /app. /app, that's what I want to be using. So after telling it the working directly where you're going to be working from, the next thing it will be to copy the package.json, because the first thing you do, what happens is that this Docker file is follows step by step. So the first thing it does is the first line, which is from, is going to be building the image from what template from Node version 12 that is already there. Then the next thing is that you specify the working directly, which is /app. So the next thing will be to copy the package.json file. And you know that the package.json is where you specify the dependencies and everything. So you want to install all those dependencies, but before you install them, you have to first of all copy them. So you are copying it from this local package.json. All the dependencies that are inside this local package.json, we're going to be copying it into this new working directly that we've created. So that's the next thing. So the next thing you will now do is to run npm install. So that's the next thing. And you know, when you run npm install, what actually happens that it goes into the package.json and installs all the dependencies. You know, the dependency we have from here now is only we only have Express. But with time, we're going to be installing NodeMon. We're going to be having Axios, many other things. And if you're having a very big project, you're going to be using a whole lot of things. Mongoose, if you're using MongoDB. So all those dependencies are going to be installed. So that's what you do when you say package.json. So because this is going to be installed in order for you to produce what we call the image. And that image is what you can use to run a container. So very, very important. You need everything that you used in the application, okay? So that's the next thing you do. Then the next will be to copy the main files. Now that you've installed the dependencies, the next will be to copy the main files from this current root directly. Everything in this KNA, copy it into the working directly, which is also the current working directly. That's the directory. That's the next thing you do. Then the next thing will be to expose the port, or sometimes better scale, I want to first of all specify my environmental variable. So my environmental variable, I'm going to specify that port is 8080. Okay. Then after I must have done that, then I can now expose, and I'm also exposing at port 8080. But I think we used 801. So let me make sure that this is 801 because that's the port I use for this application. So that is where you get to in order for you to see this application. Then finally is to give the command. So once you've copied all the code, you've installed all the dependencies, well, what's the next thing you do? You simply run npm start, because that's how you start up a project in Node.js. So command is npm then start. So I can now do Ctrl S to save this file. So this is what we call a Docker file. So I've taken time to explain what each step does. So this is how you produce a Docker file. Then depending on how big the file or how big your project is, then you might be having other things added to this Docker file. So this Docker file runs only one container. But you see that we are having a microservices that has plenty of application. So each of them, KNA microservice is supposed to be one container. So with one Docker file, payment is supposed to be one container with one Docker file. Elements, one container with one container with one Docker file. So how do you run and coordinate all the Docker files to run together? You need to use what we call Docker Compose, which I'm going to teach us later now. So let's quickly see what this one is all about before we can continue. So this is npm start. That's what I want to use to run this application. But first of all, I need to make sure that I have a start file here, a start script, so that once it gets here, you can be able to use that script. So what I can easily do is to copy this test script that I have here. Then I come down here, paste it over, and use it as my start script. So I'm gonna quickly have my start script. Why I'm having this start script is so that when it says npm start, it will know what it's looking at. So when I say npm start, what do I want to do? I simply want it to go to do node, then src slash index.js. Okay, so that's what I want. That's what I want my start script to be doing. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Docker and finish up. I want to create an image with these very Docker files. So I'm going to save this, get back to this, and save this. So henceforth, I don't want to be running my server by saying node src slash index.js. I want to run it from the Docker. I want Docker to be powering this application so that once I'm done, I can just take this file and be able to deploy it in AWS or Microsoft Azure. Okay, so let me quickly say docker dash version, because I want to know the version of Docker on this system and make sure that, okay, you can see Docker version is 2010.21. So I have a Docker. So the next thing after having Docker, I can simply say Docker PS to learn about the running container. So there's no container that is currently running, but there are images. So I can say Docker images in order for me to see the images. So you can see I have lots and lots of images already. So I'm going to build a new image now with these very Docker files so that you see it here. And the latest one I build will always be up here. So you can see this one. I built one microservice /auth. That's the latest. So I'm going to build a new image now with which we can start running a container. You can see that currently there's no container running, because if there's a container running, when we did Docker PS, we would have seen something under this container ID, the image name, the command, but nothing is under them because no container is running yet. So we're going to learn how to start running a container. So for us to do that, the first one will be to build an image. So what is image? So I tried to explain this. First of all, I explained what is a Docker, and I say that Docker is that which provides us the ability to package and run an application in a loosely isolated environment called a container. That's what Docker is. Now, in order for you to Dockerize, first thing you do is to create a Docker file. And you can see this is a Docker file. This is the first thing I created. What is a Docker file? A Docker file is a blueprint for building a Docker image. So we use it to build a Docker image. And Docker image is that which after building, you can just send it up in anywhere. With that Docker file, you can recreate the project and put it in a container. And you use that image to containerize an application. Okay. So now that we've written our Docker file and we explained that first of all you have to build from a base image. This is the base image we are using, Node 12. You have to have your working directly in the Docker container. Where do you want to work in? You want to work in the app directory. Then you want to copy the package.json from the local file, this our local package.json, into the Docker directory. Then you run the npm install in order to install all the dependencies. Then copy the rest of the files, the code, the rest of the code from this local to the current directly on the Docker. Then you have to do what your port, your environmental port, the port you want it to run in the Docker, which is 8001. Then expose it mostly at that same port so that somebody can go there and search what you've done and see what you've done with this very port number. Then cmd simply means the command npm start. So you want, once after doing all this, the last thing it will do is npm start. And once it does npm start is simply going to go to the package.json and run the start script, which is node src slash index.js. And index.js is this very file, which is our base file. This is the file we created the last time. So please let me make this port 801. Okay, this is the file we created the last time. So the latest thing I added was that I added another endpoint. This is the endpoint that we had. Hello, welcome to Q&A service. I added another endpoint because this one is just sending a string. I added another one that is sending a JSON that has question and answer because we are doing question and answer. So this is how you write endpoints very simply. App.get, then you put the route. Slash simply means localhost 8001 or localhost anything in the port. But when you put slash something, it means localhost 8001 slash ax. Once you go to that route, you should be able to see this JSON. So this JSON is normally how you're going to be seeing your when you connect to database, how you're going to be seeing your data being transported or being transferred across the HTTP using JSON. So this is the question: what is the meaning of life? And the answer is 42. So this, I'm doing this because we are working with Q&A for now. Okay, so let's now build this very Docker image with this Docker file. Let's build a Docker image with this Docker file. Okay, so now we've checked. I've given you the commands to check whether what the version of the Docker is. Also to check the whether containers are running. You see no containers running. We're going to run one now. Then we also check the images that we have on our system. Okay, so now the next thing will be to build a Docker image. So how do you build a Docker image? With the Docker file. So this is how you build a Docker image. You simply say Docker, that's the first thing, and you say build. You're telling it, Docker, please help me build with tag. Then you write the image name. So the image name, sometimes you have to write your Docker username plus image, but write how you think is easier for you to remember it. But me, I'm gonna say Microservices slash Q&A. That's what I want to name this image. Now, what is the path to where you want to build it? It's in the local, in this very current directory of the Docker, dot. So this is how you build. So press the enter key, it will start building this image. So you say Docker build at tag microservice slash Q&A in the current Docker directory. That's what the dot stands for. So you can see that the image is being currently built now. So once it's done, then if you do Docker images now, you should be able to see microservices slash Q&A as one of the images built. Okay, so that is how you do it. It's as simple as that. Dockerization. Once you build this image, with this image you can run a container, and once you can run a container with this image, the same image you can send it to AWS or Azure and use it there to do whatever you want. Okay, so we're building the image now. Okay, thank you. Let's wait for it while it does build. Okay, so we're waiting for it to finish building. Let's give it a while. Yeah, so remember, if you need me to help you out in your career path as a software developer, you can always call my line. My phone number is +234 70671 62698. So I provide services for software development, give you good career guidelines on how you can learn the most important things that you need as a software developer, so that you can start developing and get yourself equipped the right way, so that you can get jobs for Silicon Valley companies and big companies in Nigeria. You need to know the skills that they require, that you should have as a software developer. Okay, so those are the things that I help you with. So if you need my services in those areas, you can always contact me or check out my website at www.educateafricans.com. www.educateafrican.com. You can check the description part of this video. You can see those links, both my phone number and my website. You can always click on the subscribe button because I release videos that is all about learning and educating Africans and educating the world as well. So click the subscribe button. Always like and share my videos, please. Like, share my videos, please. I'm begging you. Like, share them because the algorithm will help me in doing this. So please like, share my videos, and drop any questions in the comment section if you have them. Okay. Okay. So the image is being built. I don't know whether I should just cut and come back, but it shouldn't take much time. Okay. So after learning the Docker, after learning how to create a Docker file, we're going to learn how to create a Docker Compose file and run it. So a Docker file is for one container, for one application. A Docker Compose file is for linking up many containers or many applications, how you can run them. Because in the actual real world environment, you can't just run one application. Microservices, there are different services, so they have to be started, and one is helping the other in a way. They are loosely connected. So you need a Docker Compose file that will tell them how to run the first one, the second one to run. So I'm going to be teaching you how to create a Docker Compose file, just the way you created a Docker file, the steps that you need. Because sometimes you need to create an application, a React application that depends on a server, on a Node.js server. So you need to run the two together. Or you're creating a Node server that depends on data from MongoDB. So you need to know how to fetch a base image from MongoDB, run, and get it connected to the Node Express server, and also to the React front end. So we are going to be looking at how to use Docker Compose file to do this, and also learn how to use Nginx or any API gateway to learn about the interactions, to know the port to hit first, and connect to other ports in order for your application to work effectively. Okay, so these are very, very important things that you should be learning as a developer. You need to be fast and have ideas of this so that whenever you employ, you have the required skills for you to do well in the company that you're working in. Once you're able to give the company what they want, they're going to retain you and they're going to pay you well. But first of all, you need to have the required skills that you need in order for you to work. And that is what I'm here to do for you. So hit me up, and you can always chat me up on WhatsApp, the same phone number, plus 234-70671-62698. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly stop this so that I'll finish up the building of the image, and we can continue from there. Thank you. See you when I see you.